Hello, this is Bruce Caraway from Lone Star College. I teach fully online as a remote faculty member in the Computer Information Technology Department. I've been in this role for about 2 years, and as a fully online and remote instructor, I've had to rethink my office hours. This presentation spawns from an article that I wrote and posted in the McGraw-Hill Higher Education faculty blog. And in this article, I had hit on 6 points that I felt were critical in making your office hours a success for both you and your students. So the agenda for this presentation is that we're going to go over your daily communication tool, video conferencing, screen capture, availability, how to take care of yourself, and how to encourage your students to be accountable. Specifically, in the topic of the daily communication tool, you need to find something that's very easy to use for both you and the student, something that's ubiquitous and found on really any platform, something that promotes collaboration among your students as well as with you. But I think if you spend any time teaching, you know that students who can take in some topic or subject matter and then be able to process that and repeat or share that with someone, that usually shows greater comprehension on their part. So I want a tool that helps foster that collaboration. And I want to establish that this is the primary mode of communication for my students and with me. So let me hop out to a tool that I use, which is Slack. Slack is a commercial, or maybe more of a better way to put it is it's a corporate tool that is found in many different areas of business. And it's one that allows team members, or in our case, our students, to communicate with one another as well as with me, their instructor. Now, we could certainly spend a lot of time looking at Slack. I'm just going to give you a highlighted view of this. So the way this is set up is here on the left in this column, you'll see these different icons. They represent really different classes that I am using Slack. And I've already selected my BCIS 1305 class. So that's what we're looking at here. And you'll notice there are some different sections. And really what I want to draw your attention to is the channels section. So channels are where I can open up essentially a topic of conversation, or in this case, you'll see that I've got one called Course Info. So this is where I will post useful information, things like the syllabus, other helpful pieces of information about the course, so that my students can see that. So you'll see here, so as I select these different items over here on the left, that changes what we see in the main panel. So if I go to the Course Info channel, you'll see where I had posted my introductory video for my students. I also posted a copy of my syllabus. And then you see where some students have actually just piped up and said hello as they join the class. And some of this is just as they become familiar with how Slack is going to be used in the class. You'll also see that I have a general help channel, and this is useful again for students to come in and post maybe a question they're having, or in this case I can even offer maybe a useful video as you see here. But in most cases where this is successful, it's when a student has a challenge and they post a question. And so here you see where I have a student who had an issue, and then some other students piped in and said, yes, I'm also having the same issue. So that helped me identify that this was something the students were challenged with. And so I was able to go ahead and give them a more direct answer as to what they needed to look at or to complete in order to overcome this issue. And I can also share, again, articles as we go through the course. And you notice there's kind of a timestamp at the top. So as we've moved through the course and as things come up topically, I can post those there. And then also back over here underneath the channels, you'll see there is also a direct messaging section. This is where I can interact with students directly. And so if a student, again, wants to talk with me, maybe not in one of these open channels, but maybe one-on-one about a specific question they have that opportunity, and then they can post a question. So I'll look at Heinz again, because I know he had several good posts here where, and this is what I wanted to show. This is actually a post from Heinz where he's actually taking a photo of what he's seeing on his computer. Another screenshot, and so I could even click and zoom in on that to see what he was seeing. And they can also even post a video. So you see how this was showing a video of what he was working through. So this gives us a nice, easy to use medium where, in this case, I think the student was actually recording with their mobile phone and taking a video, but then because Slack has an app on really any platform, the student can quickly post that into the Slack channel, or in this case, a direct message, and the student and I are able to interact with relative ease. So again, we want to find a tool that they are familiar with, something that is easy to grasp, and then again, really important is that it's going to start to promote that collaboration, because we know when you're fully online, it's hard to create that community within the student or the students of the class. And so if you can find a tool, something like Slack, to maybe break down some of those initial barriers, that can be very valuable in making the classroom experience successful. There's other products that will do the same thing. If you're a Microsoft campus, you probably have access to Microsoft Teams, Google Hangouts. I know there's some other more social media type environments that support this, but I've just found Slack to be useful for me, and especially since I'm teaching in courses that are usually in the IT realm. This is a product that the student will probably see if they wind up going out into the IT corporate setting, that they may well encounter Slack as a tool that they'll use there. So I think it's doubly valuable for my students to use that. The next item we want to discuss is video conferencing. So this is where you will establish more of that, and I'm putting face-to-face in quotes, where you're probably going to be using your webcam as well as the student's going to have their webcam, and that will allow you to see your student face-to-face. This is useful, especially when maybe you're trying to help students with questions that they have, and again, they're coming to you in your virtual office hours. So an analog lesson, maybe something where you're writing on paper, like a math problem, or some kind of a visual, having the ability to use a camera and actually point that at the written word or whatever it is that you're demonstrating can be useful. So the video conferencing tool that you select would be something that you want to be sure you have in your work set or your tool set. It's good at demonstrating technological issues, and again, helping students maybe work through something that they're seeing on their computer screen. And it's probably also integrated with that communication tool that we mentioned earlier. Being able to move quickly into the communication, or move into your video conferencing capability, or embedding that in your communication tool is very valuable. Screen capture. So in some cases, you will want to be able to capture your screen and either take a still shot of that or actually record a video, much like what I'm doing right now. And so using some of the tools that are either inherent to the operating system that you're using, or finding some tools to install on your computer would probably help you in this regard. You see in this screenshot, there's a tool called the snipping tool. This is found on most Windows computers, and this allows you to essentially snip a image from your screen and then turn that into an image file, and then you can share that with your students. So taking a screenshot, also recording a screencast video. You might also find that if you're answering the same type of question again and again, or your students are coming to you again during this virtual office hours, you might find that if you can use a screen capture tool to record a frequently asked question, or the answer to that rather, the screen capture tool may be very helpful in that recording of that, so that you don't have to keep answering the same question again and again, or waiting until after the question is asked before you have the answer waiting for the student. So again, we've got the snipping tool. In the Mac operating system, you can use a couple of different key combinations with your keyboard, where you hold the Shift and the Command key and then either tap the 3, the numeric 3, or the 4, and this will capture either a full screenshot or give you the ability to select a section of your screen and save that for reuse as an image file. There are also third-party software products that support this. Some things like Snagit, let's see, Cloud App, and some other products that let you actually capture your screen. Maybe something you want to look into either purchasing or acquiring and installing on your computer. So as you start to think about setting up your office hours, you want to make sure that you establish up front what your availability is going to be. Again, these are virtual office hours, so they're not necessarily going to be constrained to the physical time that you are physically on a campus, but rather the boundaries are a little bit less defined, and that's for both you and your students. You need to establish some boundaries, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. But especially for your students, it's important that they know when they can find you online. So if you want to publish office hours, you want to do that early. Maybe make sure that's part of your syllabus statement or your syllabus content, and in that you have a statement about your availability at certain times of the day, and to set your communication expectations. So being sure to tell your students that you will be online, let's say between 10 and noon, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, for example. And so if they were to come into the Slack team site, in my case, for example, they could probably find that I would be there, and I would hopefully be able to respond pretty quickly to any questions or interactions that they request there. But I also want to establish for my students that they understand, especially after hours or over the weekend or holidays, what my response time will be. And I usually will tell them that I will try to have an answer back to them within the next 24 hours. If it's during the week, if it's over the weekend, or maybe during a holiday, I just usually establish that I will try to have an answer back to them by 5 p.m. of the next working day. Again, it's important that we take care of ourselves and make sure that we are not putting ourselves in a position of failure, maybe due to burnout. So we want to encourage first that our students use the collaboration, or are looking to use Collaborate first. So if it's in the Slack environment, they can use that help channel to pose their question, and maybe one of their fellow students will come in and help answer the question before you as the instructor have a chance to answer it. And it is okay to defer your answer. Again, if you're in that virtual office hour time and they ask a question and you realize you really need to do some research, it's okay to beg for to beg for some more time, and inform the student that you will be getting back to them shortly. Sometimes when you're sitting in front of the computer and you're trying to understand the student's challenge, it might require that you take a step back and see that, and just keeping the student in an online or an active session with you can maybe create some undue stress. So it's okay to defer your answer and inform the student that you'll get back to them in a timely manner. You may want to establish a strict system or a loose system. So do you want to just set an open time block, again, maybe from 10 a.m. to noon, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, that the students can come to talk to you, again, using that communication tool like Slack? Or are you going to establish some fixed calendar appointments? And so that helps maybe establish an expectation of what the students are coming to you about. What is their problem? What is their question? What is their challenge? And that leads us really into our last point, and that is the student accountability. Make sure you have your students send you a courtesy message to reconfirm when they're coming, that they remember that and they will be sure to, honor that time. So confirm their arrival time. Make sure they give you a description of their issue, and that helps them also formulate in their mind what they're truly having a challenge with. If they just come in and say, I just don't understand the assignment, that leaves you having to do a lot more in terms of having to survey or interview the student to understand what their problem or challenge is. So make sure they've established the details and they've sent that to you, and that helps you prepare for that meeting. So those were the 6 items that I put together for the topic of establishing your virtual office hours. If you have any questions, you're definitely welcome to reach out to me, and you see my contact information there, and I'd be happy to follow up with you on any other thoughts or observations or questions you might have about virtual office hours. I thank you, and I hope you have a great day.